in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, my name is Bree Rogers, the Marketing Assistant for Revolution Group. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the fourth installment of our webinar series, Revolutionize the Supply Chain. Today's discussion will be ERP selection, finding the right tool for the job. We will be recording today's session to post on our website, so if you would like to revisit or share today's information, we will send you the link to do so. On the agenda today, after we have a brief introduction of Revolution Group, our speaker will be discussing the ERP marketplace, understanding your organization, and a typical ERP selection process. For those of you who don't know us, Revolution Group is a Central Ohio-based technology solutions provider founded in 1995. On our staff, we are privileged to have ERP implementation specialists and custom developers with years of manufacturing and supply chain experience. Our partnerships with Plex, Salesforce.com, Adaptive Planning, and Microsoft allow us the expertise and resources necessary to facilitate our customers' growth. We have been extremely successful in helping our customers leverage technology to revolutionize their supply chains and improve their business competitiveness. Our speaker today is one of the biggest contributors to those successes. She has been with Revolution Group for 12 years and has been in the industry for 20. Not only has she worked with various ERP systems, she also has been deeply involved in the supply chain for most of that time. It is my pleasure to introduce Revolution Group's Senior Project Manager, Karen Patterson.
Thank you very much, Bree, and welcome everyone this afternoon. Managing your manufacturing enterprise can be complex, and you need the right tools to do it. One of the most pervasive tools in your box is your business system. The strengths and weaknesses of this system can pretty literally touch everyone in the organization, as today's ERP systems are not just about billing and balance sheets. If your organization is considering a change in business systems, I'm certain it is not because anyone believes the process will be fun. As ERP practitioners for almost 20 years in various capacities, we at Revolution surely understand how overwhelming the software selection process can be. And today I'd like to share with you not only a typical selection process, but also some practical lessons learned to help make your software selection project more successful. Today there are hundreds of ERP systems of varying capabilities serving any number of manufacturing markets. These range in size from off-the-shelf products, such as Peachtree and QuickBooks, a multitude of mid-market products serving companies generally $2 million to $1 billion in revenue, up to full enterprise applications such as SAP and Oracle. Each of these products can spill between marketplaces. Some have their roots solidly in the 70s, while others are progressive startup organizations using cutting-edge technologies and delivery techniques. Organizations also have the opportunity to choose between philosophies for their business systems. Some organizations choose to rely nearly solely on one completely integrated solution, while others choose to bolt together best-of-breed applications to meet their requirements. Each philosophy has its strengths and weaknesses, and each requires a different level of technical expertise, risk, and cost. The marketplace is currently offering 3 primary delivery methods, with a 4th surely to be coming soon, which would be a mobile solution. The first, cloud computing or software as a service, is the newest, and it means that your data resides in a professionally managed data center using a multi-tenant database, most often with a hot backup site in the cloud. The application is served from a single set of source code, meaning that all companies are using the exact same programs and they're often driven to customization with switches and settings that control your functionality. The benefits of using a cloud-based solution are that you have little internal infrastructure or tech support that's required, so little internal expertise is needed to manage the application itself. Often there are daily or more regular updates to the application than are provided by typical on-premise applications. Often these applications are community-driven applications, meaning that all of the folks who use the application, or all of the organizations who use the application, drive improvement into the application. And so you often see modifications that are coming from a business perspective more than you see them coming from a software or marketing type perspective. And often all of those modifications are shared among the members. What one member does can be turned on by another member just using switches or settings. Some examples of cloud-based applications that you may have heard of are Salesforce.com. They have a complementary, actually the platform that they're built on is called Force.com, which is a development platform that you can use to build your own applications. NetSuite and the company that we work with as a partner called Plex Systems, they are the first cloud-based full ERP system. A hosted system generally means that you have your own instance of code and your own database. However, the software company or another service provider will host the application for you. So you're still accessing it via the internet, but it is one complete installation that is only yours. It helps you to cut down on the technical expertise that's required to manage the server, and because they're doing that for you, and they often will manage also the software update process. A traditional on-premise application, this means that the application resides completely within your organization and that you're responsible for all the servers, all the maintenance, all the updates, and you have complete control of the application. You have control over updates to the application. You know when they're rolling out. You have to have the expertise to put them on. You have complete control over any modifications that are made to your application, control over backup and data storage, and you can obviously see that it requires a decent level of expertise within the organization to do all of this management. But with the control comes the requirement for the expertise within the organization. There are a couple of options to consider when it comes to paying for your business systems. Typical on-premise solutions generally offer an upfront license fee, which is financed by the organization at time of licensing. This upfront fee is generally coupled with an annual maintenance fee, somewhere in the 15 to 20%-ish of initial license annually. And the typical license is usually user-based, so depending on the number of users you have helps to drive the cost of your initial license. Cloud solutions are typically subscription-based, which means that you pay as you go, kind of like a utility. They don't typically require an upfront investment, but they do have a recurring charge that continues for as long as you use the application. Some cloud-based applications allow unlimited users to the system, which encourages the organization to proliferate the application throughout for greatest benefit, rather than always thinking about, do we want to invest in another user of the application? So what is your organization's tolerance for technology? Do you prefer sticking with the more tried, true, and tested on-premise applications where you have more control and more responsibility? Or is your organization more cutting edge? Are you always looking for the next great thing and are willing to take the risk and be on the front edge in that regard? I do want to point out, having been in the marketplace for a while and having served in software selection projects for a while, that name recognition, also known as marketing, may not always equal success for your organization. You need to be willing to look past just the big names and look at some of the up-and-comers as well. So being able to determine what's out there in the marketplace, do you know what software products are out there? Of course, the tools that we have to do this research have grown significantly over the past years. There are many, many websites that can offer you research and perspective on software products that are available in your marketplace. When you're searching, you don't want to be searching just for ERP solution or business solution, but you want to be specific about your industry and your business requirements when you're searching. Of course, there are the industry analysts. Subscribing and reading their papers will help give you guidance in what is coming down the pike, and I'm speaking, of course, of Gartner and Aberdeen, and there are some other industry analysts that you can follow. Talking to your own suppliers, your own customers, and people that are in your peer group. How long have you had your application? What application are you using? What do you like? What do you not like? If you could do it again, what would you do differently? Check with your suppliers, customers, and peers. A great source of information are industry publications, the printed publications and the websites where software companies will advertise. They know which industries they are trying to reach, and so they're going to be advertising in those publications. So that's a pretty good way to find some targeted solutions that you may not know about otherwise. Of course, along a similar vein, attending trade shows and talking to the ERP solution providers that are going to be at those trade shows. There will often be at least one or two there. And I don't know if you've heard of this, but there is this idea or concept of these software shootouts that you can participate and maybe see 3 or 4 vendors who are giving these just quick down and dirty demos to introduce people to their applications. So it's just some ideas on ways that you can find out what is out in the marketplace. As we head into the software selection project itself, I just want to point out that this is not just another IT project. And in fact, a software selection project, while it definitely involves IT and is often led by IT, is so much more far-reaching than just an IT project. A software selection project properly done will encompass the whole organization and should be thought of as a business process improvement project. So as I mentioned, we want to be looking at your whole organization when you think about your ERP system. Today's ERP systems can encompass so much more than just accounting and bookkeeping. This will be a political project. Even in the smallest organization, you're going to be touching everyone and affecting everyone when you eventually swap out your ERP system. So it's really important to involve them in the process. As you go through this process, as well as you reach out to areas that you would not necessarily consider to be a traditional part of an ERP implementation, you might really find some unforeseen gems, some low-hanging fruit, and really true business challenges will emerge as you consider all areas of the organization. And you see, I just started a list on this screen of areas to consider as you're looking at an ERP software selection project. This list can go on and on and on. This took me 2 minutes to get just to this place where I am in this list. You'll also want to consider the personality, the skill sets that you have internally or that you desire to have within your organization, and the resources of your organization. Would your organization be more successful with a software that is considered to be more move-in ready, with giving you more limited ability to customize and modify the application, but that will just run? Or do you have the need and desire to build onto the application, to modify and change the paint colors of the application? So consider the personality of your organization and your vision for the role that you want the ERP system to play. I was asked, actually just last week, in a discussion that I was in, we were talking about a particular ERP solution, and it happened to be the only one that this organization had looked at to this point. And the question was, how can my manufacturing business be different from the guy down the street? It's all manufacturing, right? The answer to that, really, when you step back and look at ERP solutions, is no, it's not all manufacturing. Businesses have very, very different process requirements that we need to be able to deal with on the software side. And also, size of the organization does not necessarily equate to process complexity. I've seen very, very large organizations that make a handful of parts for a couple customers. They just happen to make a lot of them. So they have a big plant. They have a lot of revenue. They have a lot of trucks going out the door because they do the same thing over and over again. Smaller job shop organizations that maybe make some tooling, they might also do some manufacturing. Oh, and we do some R&D. We have a very much more diverse customer base. We do some distribution. We sell direct to some customers. You get the point. Even the smaller organization can be much, much more complex in their need for their business systems. Just a few examples, is your process, are you doing a process manufacturing versus a discrete manufacturing? What are the industry norms, requirements, and regulations for the industry that you're in? What are your distribution methods? Is your customer base a B2B or a B2C? What are the priorities of your organization in terms of your ERP system? Are you a job shop or do you have a repetitive process? And on and on. Many, many topics to be covered as you go through this ERP selection process. So size of the organization, among a million other things, does not necessarily equate to process complexity. So as you can see, there are really a lot of moving parts to consider in the software selection process. But there are some fairly standard processes that can be used as a template to tackle the software selection process and bring success to your organization. Just to say this up front, you can see from everything that we've talked about that we could have a pretty significant timeline, and you should expect that on a project like this. Obviously, depending on a number of factors, you could reasonably expect a software selection process to take from 3 on the really small side, from 3 to 6 months easily to get through a proper software selection process and feel like you have made the choice that is appropriate for your organization. So I'm going to go through 10 steps and talk about them that we typically see. Some of these are appropriate in all organizations, some of them are not, but we're going to talk about them and use the ones that fit. So step one that we typically see is that we're interviewing the organizational leaders or champions in all areas of the business. As I mentioned before, the ERP selection process should be all-encompassing, and all business processes should be reviewed and analyzed. Don't think about who I should talk to, but rather think process, all of them, from managing your sales opportunities to inventory control to accounts receivable to the balance sheet. You can see that this is a big job, but it's the only way to truly understand the full requirements of the organization. You can expect this step of the process to require at least 1 to 2 hours per business process, and it's not uncommon at all to discuss 30 to 40 separate processes. But this step is going to fuel your business process mapping, requirement planning, and ROI study, it also serves to draw the whole organization into the selection process so that they can know that their requirements have been heard and documented and that we're looking for a solution for the whole organization. That helps politically as well. Step 2, document the various business process flows. Each of the business processes should be mapped using the flow charting technique of your choice. Understanding the current process, its requirements and limitations is vital, and visualizing the process and all of the interrelated pieces can be invaluable in understanding the true process improvement opportunities, illustrating current inefficiencies, and highlighting the critical requirements. The document should include information flow between departments and systems, and should include input and output examples where possible. The result of this process is also invaluable when it comes time for implementation, because as we implement a particular business process, we can refer back to the original business process flow to determine how to configure and best put the software application into that process. To keep this process reasonable, you want to limit yourself to 1 page per process flow, unless there are just a million critical factors that must be included. Remember that we're not creating a design spec for a programmer. We're just trying to get a grip on our current processes and requirements. Step 3, develop a set of requirements in each business process area. With this step, we want to develop a set of detailed bullet points from the business process flow that we went through that can be used to create a request for information to a software vendor. This can also be used in a couple more steps to create the demo script and the scorecard for the demo participants who will be involved in the selection project. So from all of the information that we gathered, in each business process area, you might have 5 or 8 specific requirements that you want to make sure the software will meet. And so we want to get those documented down into detailed bullet points and create the request for information. Step 4, research the market and determine an initial list of software solutions. Using all of the tools that we discussed earlier in the presentation, coupled with your new requirement list and the overall goals of the organization, create a list of 5 to 8 software solutions that you're interested in reviewing more fully. Remember that almost all vendor websites who are relevant these days have on-site videos and demos that can give you a jump start on understanding their solutions more fully. Step 5, make initial contact with those vendors and submit a request for information. Most software companies will have both an internal sales team and an external sales team. Often this request for information process is fielded by the inside sales and passed off to a sales rep or partner in your geographic area. The initial RFI should be formatted in such a way that each point or topic is numbered and can be easily referenced back to. Also keep in mind that you're going to want to set the responses side by side to each other. So use a format or tool that makes this easy, such as, I can't believe I'm recommending this, but such as Excel to communicate. Be kind to the vendor and provide them with an overview of your organization, your size, your goals, your general marketplace, your contact information, so they can most accurately and efficiently answer your questions in your RFI. Step 6, narrow your list. Based on the feedback from your RFI, both direct and indirect, ask for additional information as needed and narrow your list to 2 to 3 vendors from whom you will request demos. It's during this phase that it would be most productive to request a ballpark or typical quote if that is a determining factor in moving your selection forward. The software and implementation quote process is complex. The vendor may rightfully request additional information even to obtain a ballpark quote, so be selective and serious in this area. You might also request a high-level sales demo just to get a feel for the application and its interface. This is typically a 1 to 2 hour web demo for the vendor to demonstrate their competitive advantage. Step 7, the demonstration process. Once you have arrived at a narrowed list, the real fun begins. There are a number of ways to tackle this process, often based on the size of the organization and the complexity of the requirements. A typical demo process can include the creation of a demo script to provide to the software vendor. What this means is that you're going to include your parts, your bill of material, your process routing for 1 or 2 parts at the most, maybe your customer name, your vendor, and request that they follow your daily process in the demo. This is not for the weak of heart. It takes time to develop this demo script. It takes a good relationship with the software provider, and they need to know that you're serious about their product for them to invest the time in building a demonstration that follows a scripted demo, and they'll need time to prepare. From that demo script then, for your participants in the demo, you're going to create an agenda that follows the same demo script. The participants need to understand the parts and the customers and why you have chosen to include those in the demo, along with an agenda and a scorecard for the participants. Now, who should attend the demo? I've seen demos where we've had, just a handful of leaders of the organization. Oftentimes, we reach down into the champion level. Oftentimes it's the same people that were involved in the interview process so that we can get feedback from each functional area. This is an intense process that really requires a lot of time from the people who are participating. The agenda that you create should group functional areas together through the day so that participants can move in and out of the demo. I come in for an hour of accounts receivable and maybe I move out while we're talking about some other topic, so that people are not committed for the whole day, but that it is organized and they know when to show up and when to leave. You can see that it requires a really good schedule and ability to manage the meeting. The scorecard that you provide to the demo participants needs to be really easy to use. I've seen scorecards that ask very detailed questions down to the minute detail, and often those get turned in with no comments on them. You want to create a simple scoring system that will allow people to let you know their concerns, what they really like, what they really don't like, and just a more general rating of scoring of the application. The scorecard, again, should be a simple scoring system at a high level with plenty of room for written comments in the scorecard. As you go through demos, as you build this scorecard, if it's possible on this sheet of paper, it's also nice to give them room to have maybe a column for all 3 of the demos, so that as they go through the demo process, they're seeing what their comments were about the previous application, and they're a little bit more able to compare and contrast as they give you feedback. You do also want to prepare your participants with a sheet that describes each product that you're looking at, why it was included in your, why you chose to include that particular product in your process. Remember that few people have been through this process before, so good preparation before they come in will really help to make this a much more successful process for them. The demos can be delivered via the internet. I see that happen a lot these days, or on site. Again, this is going to depend generally on the size of the deal that the software company is working with. If you are seriously looking at a software product, you are going to need at least one full day demo, meaning an 8 to 5 demo. You need a number of hours to get through all of the business processes that people are going to want to look at and talk about. It's not entirely uncommon to have a 2-day demo where the software vendor will spend the night and get back up and start over in the morning with your scripted demo. You do want to be careful to not let the demo get hijacked with specific questions. You need to have it timed out, and you need to be prepared to parking lot topics that need to be followed up on so that you can stay with the script and be fair to everyone that's participating. Remember that the software provider is making a substantial investment in the process at this point as well. Be prepared, be scheduled, and be organized and communicate to everyone well during the process. It's not uncommon to provide the software vendor with the opportunity for a pre-demo on-site visit. So if they would like to come in maybe a week before or 2 weeks before their demo is scheduled so that they can get a feel for the organization and the people that are involved and ask their own questions, this is a very typical thing to do. You'll want to offer this as an option and provide time in your timeline to accommodate this process. Step 8, request for quotation. So for the vendors who make the final cut, you're going to want to request a formal quotation from them. Remember in that quotation that you're going to need to include not only the price for the application software, if only it were that easy, but you also need to consider any hardware requirements. Don't forget about any hardware that you might need out on your plant floor or your shipping dock or offices other than the main office. If this is going to be an on-premise application, you would want to consider servers and operating systems as well. Don't forget about the cost for installation if it's on-premise. Any infrastructure, oftentimes if you're moving out to your plant floor, there can be costs to, if you don't already have wireless on your plant floor, you'll want to include wireless on your plant floor and the infrastructure to support that. Any scan guns that might be required. Customization. As you have gone through the demo process, can pretty much guarantee that you're not going to find an application that fits the bill exactly. We're trying to get as close to the perfect solution as we can here, but you're going to come up with areas that it's apparent that you're going to require customization. Understand what that process is going to look like, whether you're going to be doing that with the software provider themselves, whether you're going to be looking to internal resources and have the tools to do that, or maybe to external resources, and try to negotiate that into the quote to the best of your ability. Implementation is a significant cost in the software, in putting in a new software system, whether that means that you just need training and you have leadership resources within the organization itself to be able to lead the organization, or it's not uncommon for an organization to bring in some outside consulting help to help manage and push the project along. Sometimes that can be useful as people have their own jobs to do, and having somebody regularly on site to continue to manage and push the project and also to be an interface to the software company can really help a lot. And of course, don't forget about the quote for annual maintenance and including that in your process for request for quotation. Step 9, references and site visits. It is not uncommon to request references and site visits in the final phases of the project. Surely you want to see your newly chosen application in action and talk to other users to get the real scoop on the application, the company that you're about to do business with, and the general atmosphere. However, please be realistic in this process. Remember that the customers who use software products are not in the software business, and they are making a considerable effort to accommodate you and your team when they let you come on site. If you do make site visits, you obviously want to get your own questions answered and bring the folks that need to be there, but you want to be considerate of the company that you're going to visit. Be organized in your visit. Try to limit it to 1 or 2 hours. Not we want to come out and get a hold of your controller and your president and spend some time with your quality manager and walk your shop floor and watch you ship 5 trucks. Those kinds of site visits are very, very difficult to accommodate, and just kind of do it in reverse and imagine trying to accommodate that for someone else. So keep it short and sweet if you can. Remember that you're trying to get a feel. Make sure that this application works. Make sure that you're hearing the tone of voice, which can often be accomplished with phone calls, to get the inside scoop on the application. Another good way to get inside scoop and do some of this work to get yourself comfortable would be to consider attending the software company's user conferences. Ask them if you can be invited. Very often software companies will have prospects at their user conference, and in this way you're meeting the users outside of their daily business. They're going to be talking candidly with you, especially if you're sitting with them around dinner table and can ask some kind of real pointed questions there. So ask the software vendor and request to be invited to their user conference as you start to get more serious. There may also be some local users groups who would be happy to accommodate a visit from you without issue. People love to talk about their applications, and I'm sure they would be happy to do that. You also might consider doing some research online, particularly looking for forums of groups that use the application, remembering that sometimes in forums people just like to complain. But so you can ask questions on forums, take what you're reading with a grain of salt, and do that for research as well as just relying on site visits. Step number 10, selection and the negotiation process. So you finally have made the selection. Now there are going to be a lot of contracts to sign and a lot to go through. Just a few points here. You're going to want to make sure that you understand all of the service level agreements, the level of service that the software provider is agreeing to there. If this is a hosted or a cloud application, you want to understand what their uptime guarantees are. You want to understand any maintenance or additional support charges. Remember to negotiate any modifications that you know of, and or maybe include time for just a little additional time to have some things done that maybe you don't even know about yet. A lot comes out during the implementation process that just it's not possible to find that during the selection process. And you'll want to understand your implementation processes, how that will be managed, how the software company will participate, how your organization will participate, and what the costs are there. Until we finally reached our bullseye, which will be the implementation project kickoff, and we will have selected the best solution for our organization, and we understand everything about what this implementation is going to look like. So we've reached the bullseye of implementation project kickoff. So there are just a few points that I wanted to bring up at the end here regarding the ERP selection process. It isn't an easy process. It's time consuming, it's very detailed, it's a lot of work, but in the end it's a very worthwhile activity. It's going to make your implementation and the acceptance of the application within your organization much smoother because everybody knows what to expect and they got to have a say in how it was going to be picked. Remember that this is a tremendous investment from everybody that's involved. As we talked about, you're going to have a lot of people from your organization involved in this, invested in it. Also the software companies that you're asking to demo, to fill out the RFI, to provide references. Everybody's making a tremendous investment in this process. So just be respectful of that fact. Think big. When you think about your ERP application, think about what the optimum would be and shoot for that. Don't limit yourself to just looking for another accounting application or maybe just an inventory application. Consider the shop floor, consider quality, consider tooling, consider maintenance, consider compliance, consider the sales process, all of those things. Think big and look outside the box for solutions. I don't think I brought this up anywhere else, but I did want to make sure I said, don't assume. Don't assume that just because the application works for some other people, that it must be able to work for you. If you have specific business requirements, you want to ask to have those demoed to you from the software provider that you're planning to work with. Don't just assume that the application can do it because every application can do this or that. Ask the questions that you're concerned about, ask for clarification, and ask to see the application do it. Your organization is different from all of the other organizations out there. Yes, everybody's doing manufacturing and everybody might be making widgets, but in my experience, when I go into an organization, the perspective is everybody must do it this way, and the truth is they don't. Everybody has their own business processes, their own priorities, and their own culture, and that needs to be fit into the software selection process. And do expect great success out of your software selection process. Going through this effort will make you much more successful in your implementation and much more successful for years to come. So with that, I want to thank you for spending time with us today. I hope that just a little insight into the process was helpful for you. We at Revolution have managed software selection projects for a number of years, and we would really be pleased to assist your organization through this challenging process. I myself am happy to answer any questions that have come about as we've gone through this conversation, or if you have any specific questions or just looking for a little insight, shoot me an email. My email address is there on the screen, and I'd be happy to help. If you're interested in having Revolution help you with your software selection project, we would also be pleased to serve in that capacity with you. And if that's the case, you can reach out to Sam Hanna, who is our Business Development Manager here at Revolution Group, and his email address is listed. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Bree.
Thank you so much, Karen, for that great information. Don't forget, today's webinar will be posted on our website if you know anyone else who might be interested. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and have a great day.